on it. Okay, we're on.
Wonderful. Okay, we are now calling the meeting to order at 7:03 and welcome to the first meeting of the 2021 Cities Association Board meeting. Welcome to our returning as well as new council members that are serving on the board. Can we begin with roll call, please? Auden.
When I state your city, if you could please say your last name. So Campbell,
Ivy,
Cupertino,
Chao, Chao.
Gilroy,
Blankley.
Los Altos,
Flagger here.
Los Altos Hills,
absent.
Los Gatos,
Sayok.
Milpitas,
Montano.
Montserrano,
Turner.
Morgan Hill,
Constantine,
Mountain View,
Abekoga.
Palo Alto,
Du Bois,
San Jose,
Jones,
Santa Clara,
Watanabe.
Saratoga,
Bell.
Sunnyvale,
Klein.
and everyone.
Laurel Pravetti is also present, Steve Preminger from the county.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And on our consent agenda, we have 4 items. Quick note from Andy on item 2C.
Item 2C, December 2020 ESA invoice. The number for the invoice says $32,510,000, and that is actually not the correct amount. The correct amount is $21,712.50. The total with the total billing to date is correct.
Okay, so I'll make that note. And just want to highlight to everyone, the calendar is in 2D, the calendar of our 2021 calendar. I know we always try and figure out when the best day to accommodate the holiday party to everyone's schedule, but we're trying to get this early to everyone so you can put it on your calendar, and hopefully this year we might be able to convene in person. Okay, with that, with the changes identified on 2C, can I get a motion for approval on the consent agenda?
Jones, so moved.
Second.
Jones and Abekoga as
you.
a second. So,
Okay.
okay,
Bybee,
Aye.
Chow,
Aye.
Blankley,
Yes.
Flagger,
Yes.
Sayok,
yes.
Montano,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Constantine,
aye.
Abekoga,
Aye.
Du Bois,
yes,
Jones,
Aye.
Watanabe,
Aye.
Zhao Saratoga,
Aye.
and Klein.
Yes.
Motion passes with 14 votes.
Ew. And so as we often do in January, we do our priority setting. And for the past couple of years, we've done it in a variety of ways. Oftentimes it involves us walking around a room with stickers. Given our COVID remote environment and some of the issues that we have been working on the past 2 years have been consistent, the executive committee actually looked at what we have been working on and identified the top 4 for your recommendation. We thought we would just start with that, but I do want to open it up for conversation from our committee members as well as the public. These are the 4 that we've identified are the top for this upcoming year, with probably COVID taking the majority of that. But we do want to make sure that there's conversation. If anyone feels that there are other issues that are of higher importance than these 4, definitely let's talk about it. And if there's someone that feels strongly that we should look towards adding a 5th priority, let's definitely talk about that as well. But for now, I just want to see committee members. Are there any comments on the 4 that we've identified? Yes, Mayor Dubois.
So I
And
take,
am I pronouncing that correctly?
it's very American. It's Du Bois.
Du Bois, okay.
So when you say COVID, I assume we're talking about both health issues as well as economic recovery. Is that the intent?
Yes, that was the intent, correct?
Sounds good.
Okay. Any other committee members, board members?
I would just also amend on the COVID piece of it, that we have found that we have to be extremely flexible when we're talking about COVID and all of the implications.
Yeah, it's a very wide umbrella, as we saw last year, given the constant changes.
I have a question regarding racial justice. What do you mean exactly that the board has in mind?
Okay, and actually, I will kick it off, but then I'll look to some of our ad hoc committee members. It's a continuation of the issues that we started to discuss last year that were identified, but I'm going to look to Vice Mayor Jones, Mayor Flygore, and Mayor Constantine, if anyone would like to add any specifics.
I'll go ahead and kick it off. So this committee was formed to look at several areas around racial justice, and we landed on two areas, below market rate housing and police reform or public safety reform. So we're targeting those two areas, and actually we've had an initial kickoff meeting with the Santa Clara County Police Chiefs Association, actually that took place today. And it was a very good conversation. We got a lot of good input from them in terms of areas and policies that we should look at that would be applicable to not only the larger cities in the county, but also to the smaller cities. So we're going to pursue those two initiatives, come back to the board with our recommendations for policy proposals moving forward. Will be in the next 3 months. We'll come back. Yeah.
Wouldn't this just be then police reform or the housing? Why does that have to be under racial justice? What exactly does that mean?
For the housing,
Yeah, housing or police reform. Are you looking at treating people differently based on their race?
actually, we're not looking to treat people differently. We're actually looking to have people treated the same. So that's our goal and objective, is to have some consistency and uniformity in terms of how people are treated in terms of police or policing, as well as opportunities for housing and fair housing. So those are the two things that we're looking at, and we're trying to level the playing field in terms of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And Vice Mayor Chow, this was a larger discussion last year that the board had on how do we look at various of our policies and institutional framework with the racial equity lens. And I believe, if I understand what Vice Mayor said, is these
so
are
we
the
are
two
trying
areas.
to make sure people are treated.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last, that people are treated what?
Do we?
I think we have some technical issues. So.
User? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
While we're waiting for Vice Mayor Chow to come back on, does anyone else have any comments or questions on some of the priorities the executive committee recommended? Yes, Mayor Klein? No? Okay. And then I'll look to our attendees. Actually, hold on. I see, yes, so Councilmember Watanabe.
Hiding over there in the corner, I guess. Thank you, Chair. So based on these four recommendations, which I think they are definitely very important recommendations, would you say that they were chosen as a result of last year? Would you say that the board focused primarily on these four issues, or were there others, or these are the ones that took up the majority of the Cities Association time?
I'll look to others, but this primarily was where we found most of our attention was spent, with COVID being the largest. The previous past 2 years, housing has always been of issue and of concern, and transportation now is so intertwined with it, and a lot of the issues that we've been working on a regional level has been there. So it really has been an indication of where we have been working. But again, we want to make sure that everyone is in agreement with that, and give an opportunity for other ideas if anyone feels that there's something more important.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yes, Mayor Blankley?
Yes, well, in response to that previous question, I do think that with regards to public safety, that was specific to events of last year. I think that's why that came forward to this group. I personally don't, those were events that did not happen here, and so my personal opinion is that those aren't things that requires so much of our attention. But that's just my personal opinion. But to answer her question, that did come just from events of last year.
Any other comments from committee members? I see a hand, but I can't figure out whose hand that is.
It's me.
Hi, Councilmember Montaño.
Hi. Climate change is a huge issue. I was wondering if that can be added to the list, or of course, with the consensus of the group. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, definitely. And any other committee members have comments to either what Councilmember Montaño shared or just to the recommended list?
Sorry, I lost my internet earlier. So I think police reform is an important issue, and then the state is doing a juvenile justice reform. By Governor Newsom has proposed to close juvenile prison, to move the responsibility down to the counties. So these are big changes that's coming. And these are important issues, but I don't think we should use this racial justice lens on everything. That seems to be the fashion, the fad now. I think we just need to treat this problem. There are important issues to address. Whether we consider race, there is a racial issue or not, it depends on the issue. Why do we want to make racial justice a topic? That seems odd. Our topic should be police reform, juvenile justice reform, if that's the goal. And maybe racial is one of the issues, but maybe there are other unfair treatment that might be unrelated to race. It might be related to income. It might be related to other factors or cultural factors. It might be like the old immigrant and new immigrants might have differences and generational differences, right? So why do we want to limit ourselves to only racial justice? It seems odd. And the same goes for housing too. That is complex, and a lot of it is mental health. Our support for that, and whether it's related to race or not. It could be, but there might be multiple other factors we should look at too. Why let's not limit ourselves to race. That's my point.
Thank you, Mayor Flygor.
Thank you, Mayor Sayok, and thanks for those questions, Vice Mayor Chow. Maybe I can just further explain, and I see we do have a couple new members to the board, where we go from here once we select the priorities for the year. We normally form subcommittees to work on these different issues. And so to your point, I'm going to use the housing one as an example. And if we were to pick, members of this board to serve on the committee for housing and homelessness, it's up to the members of that committee to decide. As you said, it's a big tent, it's a big umbrella. There's a lot that could fall under that category. But it's up to those committee members to decide what do they think we need to tackle as the Santa Clara County Cities Association under that big umbrella. So to your point, I agree. Under each of these 4 priorities, there's so many things that we could want to tackle, but we can't. It's a 1-year priority. And so, you know, if you volunteer to be on one of these committees and you think mental health should be the focus of the housing committee, then that's something you would work on with the committee members.
So maybe I'm confused. I thought we are setting priorities for next year, but you are saying we are restricted by whatever committee that was already formed last year. So we have to be limited to these 4 because they were determined by some pre-existing committee.
Now,
I
if
guess
I
I'm confused.
if I could just take a step back and provide context. This is a recommendation by the executive committee of the 4 priorities that we think that this board should give consideration. We are not predetermining what the priorities are, but given the work that has been occurring for the past 2 years and the work that several members have put into last year, these are the recommendations that the executive committee would like this board to consider. If there are other recommendations or if there are other priorities that other board members feel should give higher weight or more weight, we're certainly welcome to entertain that. But with almost all of the issues that, that are on the agenda, the executive committee will always at least provide a recommendation for consideration to start the conversation.
Oh, so if we decide on certain priority, this is going forward. And then that means we will probably form a committee for a proposed topic. And so we hope it's a topic that with enough interest so a committee can be formed.
Correct. Usually once our priorities are determined, we will ask people to sit on those committees so that there would be a smaller subgroup. They will then work on a recommendation that this board will then consider. Again, something tangible that all cities through the Cities Association can work on together. Understanding that each city may have a little nuance that they may want to take back. Some cities may not want to get involved, but something that all cities can work on together. So that's the goal. Okay.
Great. So then I'd like to propose a topic related to housing. That's decommoditization of housing, because I think we are facing with this high and ever rising housing prices is because housing has become an investment vehicle for a lot of people and also foreign investors. So we have people buying up house in cash and letting the house sit there vacant. And whether these might be the reasons for higher prices, I don't know. And I think I wonder if there is interest to look at market forces that's actually driving housing prices so that we can, it's not really only looking at the supply of housing, which we have been only looking at that. We should looking at why the market forces are driving up housing to the point that even if you say replace one single family homes with 4 units, each of the new units is more expensive than the old one. This happened in Berkeley, in many other cities. So it seems we really need to look at that.
Okay, and just so process for all board members, once we hear from everyone, and I am going to go to the public since I see a hand raised there, I'm going to look to all of you to give consideration on making a motion. Again, these are recommendations, and so someone will have to make a motion and the board will make a decision. And so I see Vice Mayor Burt.
Thank you. So I'd like to follow on to Councilmember Montoya's recommendation.
Montano,
excuse me. I'm just meeting some of you. I apologize.
Think about the state of Montana, but with an O at the end.
In any event, I'd like to speak to a little bit about why climate change should be considered a priority and an immediate priority. Prior to the pandemic, we were already seeing this global youth movement of an entire generation saying our future is being deprived. This is an emergency. And we were really starting to struggle with the transition from it being a long-term critical problem to an emergency. Then that whole movement was kind of interrupted by the pandemic. And the pandemic to me illustrated a couple of things. One of the problems with addressing climate change is that it has been such a challenging problem, and that despite its overwhelming impacts on all of us and our children and our children's children's future in ways that may be irreversible, we really had largely come to a conclusion. There's no way we can get society to make the transformations needed, social transformations, and the financial commitment to actually solve this problem. And lo and behold, we had a even more immediate emergency, but one that is arguably considerably less consequential than climate change. And we've seen incredible trillions of dollars spent nationally in complete transformation socially. And it means that we can actually do this. The other thing is that in the last several years, we have had California mega fires every year, to the point where this year it was a month of the health hazards of smoke on our entire population, and a public safety threat to thousands of our residents in the borderline areas to open space. And so now climate change is already arguably a public health crisis and a public safety crisis, as well as to environmental crisis. There isn't really anything bigger. So this year, we all hope and I think believe that we're going to begin the transformation out of the pandemic. I argue that we should have this as a priority now, so that we pivot anywhere near as much focus on climate change as we already have on the pandemic, and be real leadership cities, leading cities in tackling this. And the impact of leading cities is tremendous. As when Palo Alto went to carbon neutral electricity back 6 years ago, that was
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor,
well,
your
all right,
time
I'll
is
let you
up.
go. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And actually, Auden, so that I know we're all timing here, but maybe if you could put back the timer on the screen to so that so I'm not having to
Sorry for
interrupt
running
people.
over.
Oh, no worries. We forgot to put that up. But any questions of Vice Mayor Burt before? Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your comments. And anyone else from the public would like to speak? Okay, seeing none, I bring it back. I'm going to close the public portion of this, and I'm going to bring it back to the board. There were the recommendations, there were comments to adding to nuances within it. Again, the process, once we determine the priorities, we will be creating committees. Those committees will then have further discussion on what that looks like and what recommendations will be brought forward to the entire board. And so I look to the board for any motions on strategic priorities for 2021. Yes, Councilmember Abikoga.
Thank you. So I appreciate the recommendations, and I think those are all of these are very important. But having chaired one of the committees last year, I think that's the real challenge is bandwidth for the group. If there are enough committee members for each of the topics, and even if we added 2 more, that's 6, which just seems like a lot. It's fine if we can do the work, but I would much prefer to, focus on 3 or 4 and actually get something done. So that would be my preference. I understand, yes, I totally believe climate change is important. It's just a question of what's the most timely issue for 2021 is how I look at it. And I guess my feeling has been with, Silicon Valley Clean Energy. I know Palo Alto has their own utilities, as does Santa Clara, but Silicon Valley Clean Energy came out of this group several years ago and we've made quite a bit of stride towards climate carbon emissions reductions. And so I'm kind of inclined to just, support the work that's being done there. San Jose has clean energy as well now. So if we can support the CCAs, that would be my preference. And, but, it's up to the group, but that would be my concern. Really is just the workload and how last year it was challenging to get everything done in a year.
Any other comments? A motion based on the comments that we've heard?
This is Jones. I'll make a motion to accept the 4 priorities that we have outlined.
Second.
Recommendation.
Okay. So we have a motion from Jones, second from Constantine. I'm sorry, Steve, did you have your hand raised? I thought I saw Steve Preminger raise his hand. And
No, I
wasn't
did.
sure.
I don't know. Can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I am having some internet challenges. I just wanted to support the executive committee's inclusion of racial justice as one of the 4. We had extensive discussions last year as our cities erupted, including here in Santa Clara County. And I think we had a lot of interest in what's going on in our community, which I think leads to the opportunity for more civic engagement of all ages, especially younger folks. So I look forward as a member of the public to volunteering on that committee and carry that specific item forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, we do have a motion on the floor and a second. Are there any questions or comments to the motion? Seeing none, Auden, if you could just do another roll call vote.
Okay, this is a motion to approve the executive board's recommendation for 2021 priority issue areas.
Correct.
So Flieger,
Yes.
Montano,
Yes.
Constantine,
Aye.
Du Bois,
Yes.
Watanabe,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Bybee,
Aye.
Langley,
Yes.
Sayak,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Abakoga,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Zhao Saratoga,
Aye.
Chow Cupertino.
Unmute. Aye.
Okay, and motion passes with 14 votes.
Thank you. And so for those that are new to the process, again, these are what we're going to do is we're going to ask all the board members as well as those in the public who may be interested, since Steve brought it up, to sign up for a committee under this. You'll then have the opportunity to discuss this further, develop some types of recommendations to bring back to the full board that you would like the full board to take action on. And so each committee, we will, yes, Andy?
Oh, I'm sorry, you finished and then I have a comment.
Okay, no, that was it.
Okay, I just want to amend the comment about who can serve on the committees. Members of our cities association may, and Steve Preminger may, because the county is called as an ex officio member in our bylaws. So
Okay.
the county can.
Okay,
But not members of the public.
Got it.
It's just our members.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. Okay. Let's move to the next one. Consideration and discussion of sending VTA board a letter regarding the 10-year budget forecast. Again, setting context, this was a letter that we've actually been discussing for quite some time now with regards to VTA, and it has evolved. I think it's in the packet for those that haven't had a chance to look at it. It's evolved so that it comments more on where we believe Cities Association would like VTA. It's more of a, we believe this is where you should focus on versus commenting on where you should not. So it's more of a positive spin rather than just saying no. And so again, the idea behind this is that we send to VTA where we stand on the recommendation with regard to Measure B funding. And I look to the board if you have any comments or questions with regard to the letter that's contained in the packet. Mayor Zhao, is that your hand up?
Yes, I trying to look for the blue. I can't find it right now. I believe we already sent a letter to Andy with modifications we like to see. And we definitely want to put this 85 corridor improvements, especially the noise mitigation, into the letter. I think we have been advocate for this for a long time. You know, my predecessor, Howard, has been very, vocal on this. So I'm, taking the torch and continue to advocate for the noise mitigation on Highway 85.
And so I think that where we've come out in my discussions with all the various cities, that if we just stick to the ballot language, that we should be fine and it should adopt everyone's concerns, if that works for everyone.
I think the first version I've signed, it's the second version, the modified version that we have a concern with. So I think we sent you our comments. So I'd like to, I'm not sure.
I think we're on the 5th version.
Maybe what we can do, Andy, is we can make sure if through Meizhao, we can also share with the city manager to make sure that this version contains the language that they were concerned about.
Yes.
Would that be okay, Mayor Zhao?
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Of course. Any other, yes, Councilmember Watanabe?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I thought it was a great letter. I saw some of the, from serving on the Caltrain High-Speed Rail Local Policy Advisor Committee, I was glad to see some of the recommendations that, have been talked about and have been concerns on that particular committee, because Caltrain is definitely looking to improve and be bigger and better in the near future, actually. I did have one question regarding the third to last paragraph. The sentence says, "We will oppose any outcome that leaves meaningful capital investments in non-BART infrastructure until a future decade of uncertain Measure B revenues." And I'm sorry, I was having trouble understanding what that sentence means, and I was hoping somebody could explain it a little bit better to me.
I'm going to give that to you, Andy.
Yeah, I'm reading the sentence again to make sure.
I'd be happy to take it.
Oh, yes, please do.
Okay. You're looking for that. No, that sentence is trying to say that that we're trying to suggest that the VTA board not look to BART to fund BART over the next 10 years at the expense of all the other programs. That's what it's trying to say. And at the last VTA board meeting, they're already looking at making sure that other programs are getting funded. So this is really honing down into just making sure that BART doesn't exceed the 25% maximum that it's allowed to spend out of Measure B. So that's what we're talking about. But what that sentence means is we're not going to be okay. If BART front loads for the next 10 years, all of its 25%, then that would leave everything else to have to wait 10 years to do anything. Okay.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Andy, and maybe we can, if there's going to be a version 6, maybe we clarify that language so that it's very clear.
Okay. And also, I mean, the VTA just received a lot of money from the federal government for BART as well. So that may be becoming a lesser point, which I think that was announced this week. We have a member, if there are no more board members that want to speak, we have a member of the public
Oh, Glenn Hendricks, and actually our VTA chair is here. Yes, if we can ask him to join us.
Do we have a timer on?
Welcome, VTA chair.
Yeah. Hello, this is Glenn Hendricks. I'm the Vice Mayor of Sunnyvale, and I'm the VTA Chair here in 2021. And I'll also just note you have several VTA board members that sit on your Cities Association. You know, it's clearly up to the Cities Association if you want to send a letter or not. Clearly, the VTA got out of the gate in a poor position in how it was trying to explain the Measure B spending plan. I can tell you as the board chair and speaking with executive management and the board, all the comments that cities have had about the concerns they have about spending, we have heard you. For those of you who didn't attend at our last Thursday board meeting, we actually presented a capacity vision of how we can go ahead and we can fund lots of different things that we have capacity to go ahead and do that. And we're going to continue to refine the policy of how that will get managed. It is also, if you're very interested in this, VTA is having a workshop on January 22nd, and you guys could all attend. And this is going to be, again, one of the topics that we have. My real point is we've heard from all the cities the issues of what it is. I believe we've already started to address those. If you want to send the letter that you have, that's fine. I actually understood what that sentence was trying to say. 85 is clearly in the sentence, the language of your letter. And if you're going to send the letter, I would just ask that you do one thing, which is that you spell my name correctly. And I don't have anything else.
Funny.
Duly noted. Thank you. Any questions of Vice Mayor Hendricks? Okay, thank you for sharing that with us. So, any other comments? Any other public comments? I see none. And so I come back to the board and any comments and any motions on how to proceed. Yes, I see Vice Mayor Jones, and then we'll go to Mayor Blankley.
Yes, I just want to reinforce what the Chair Hendricks stated, that we got out of the gate in the wrong way with the initial document that was presented to everyone. That has been rectified. VTA has come back and made revisions that are clearer and it's a better representation of the path forward. We're going to have this workshop, which it would be great if as many people participate as possible to have their input. But at no time, based on the comments that have been made by other board members and the chair, was there a real effort or push to front load all the money into BART at the expense of all the other projects and initiatives. So it's just unfortunate that that perception was out there. I'm supportive of the letter. The letter actually is in alignment with the direction that VTA is going in. And so I will make the motion to approve the letter.
Okay.
I'll second it then, because I was going to make the motion.
Okay, so we Jones and then Blankley, and then we have a comment from Councilmember Abicoga.
Thank you. Yes, I was going to support the letter, or I will support the letter as well. I think it's worth the while to go on record as all of our cities as to where we stand. I appreciated that the VTA staff presented a different scenario on Thursday, but there was some conversation, and it had to do with financing and the costs of financing if they have to bond for the BART project, and some concerns were raised about the high cost of financing. So I guess I appreciated the changes that were made, but I'm still not completely confident that there's going to be some more negotiating and discussion about this in light of the high cost of the bonding, the debt financing. So I think it's worth for that reason to go on record as to where we stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none. Oh yes, Mayor Klein.
Sure, I'll just chime in for just a moment. I do think that there is value in the letter, and it's just to a certain degree, it's showing the the partnership and kind of the collaboration and unity amongst the different cities in the county. I do think that transportation, as we talk to all of our residents, it's always transportation and housing are usually the two highest issues. And, you know, part of this was the contract when Measure B was approved several years ago. And I think that just kind of reinforcing that language. And I think, you know, from my standpoint, VTA is heard, but I do think it, you know, following through in this letter that as President Sayuk said, we started this work several months ago, and I think it's good to finally bring this in front of the board and go through at least the final completion of that letter. Thank you.
Any other comments?
That we correct the spelling of Glenn Hendrick's name. Okay.
Absolutely. That's the most important.
We're just making sure everybody's paying attention.
Okay.
Okay, so Auden, do you mind calling?
Okay, this is a motion to approve the letter as written in version 5 with the amendment of Glenn Hendrick's name.
Correct.
So, two boys.
Aye, and just to clarify though, you will update all the mayors on the letter as well. Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the letter began, I think, in November or
Yeah,
December.
November.
Jones.
Aye.
Zhao Saratoga. Zhao Saratoga.
Aye, sorry. Trying
Bybee.
Aye.
Langley.
Yes.
Sayok.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Constantine.
Aye.
Watanabe.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Chow Cupertino.
Aye.
Fliger.
This doesn't have to be part of the motion, but I do think we should clarify that sentence that was ambiguous that we discussed earlier based on Vice Mayor Blanca's explanation. And with that, yes.
Okay. Montano.
Yes.
Abakoga.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 14 votes.
Thank you. We will make those changes and then we will Andy, what is our process? We send it to each city clerk for signature?
I actually, I work with the city manager's office to get these done. And I usually, I work with them on the signatures.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and actually agenda number 5, we included this by mistake. This actually is going to be on next month's agenda. And that's a discussion on how to be more strategic on city selection appointments. And so that'll be for the February agenda. And so if we can move on to number 6, which is an organizational update on the status of our JPA efforts. And if we can have our legal counsel, Shantine, welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you, President Sayuk. Well, first of all, welcome to our members, new members. It's an honor to have you all here. And for those of you who have not yet had the pleasure to meet, my name is Shantine Copwell. I am outside legal counsel for the Cities Association. By way of introduction, I'm a former government attorney and for the federal government. And I'm the principal attorney of my law firm, focusing on governmental affairs and employment law. And I appreciate the opportunity to share an update on our ongoing efforts to restructure the Cities Association's organizational form to hopefully ensure that the Cities Association can operate to its full potential. So for our new members, I know Executive Director Jordan provided an orientation to you recently, during which she mentioned that the Cities Association will be transitioning to a joint powers authority. And while we have very limited time here to expound upon that further, the key takeaway really is that we're working to adopt a new organizational structure unique to California, the JPA. At this point, I have created a draft JPA constitution, and I will have the pleasure of working with President Sayok and our very own Secretary Treasurer, Mayor Nisa Flygor, on the JPA constitution as well as other matters, so that we can expeditiously and very efficiently confer on the details to include both, of course, the legal conditions and requirements, as well as ensuring that the JPA is set up in a way that will best serve the City Association now and going forward. So we're in a good place. We've done quite a bit of work, but I'm looking forward to working with the executive board members to finalize this constitution for all of your consideration and transitioning to a JPA this year, which would be fantastic and I think would benefit the Cities Association ability to continue to grow and expand. So I won't take up any more of your time on this.
Thank you. Any
You're welcome.
questions? This is one of these complex behind the scenes issues, but we've been struggling with it for many years, it seems like. And so I'm looking forward to having a wrap up of this by 2021. If anyone would like more information on the details, we'd be happy to provide it. But as we said, it's a long process, and we'd rather maybe we could do a one-on-one with Executive Director Jordan if anyone has any questions. So.
Absolutely. And thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so we are now moving to item number 7, which are decisions regarding the Santa Clara Santa Cruz Roundtable. And in the staff report shows a little bit of history of the origins of the roundtable, and in the orientation we shared that with you. And so for today, we would like to ask the roundtable committee to come forward and share where they are in the process and have a conversation. And I believe Vice Mayor Hendricks, you'll be doing that on behalf of the roundtable.
Yeah, thanks again. Hello, this is Glenn Hendricks, again, Vice Mayor of the City of Sunnyvale. I want to announce my other 2 colleagues, which are Mary Lynn Bernal and Kathy Watanabe. We are members of the Santa Clara Santa Cruz Roundtable, and we're the members that were assigned to the ad hoc committee to look into finding a new fiscal agent and legal entity for the roundtable to operate under. We started this effort several months ago to find a new organization to live under. And I'm here to report we have explored multiple options and have found there are no viable options for the roundtable to move to. So with that, we are asking the Cities Association to work with the roundtable and try to address all the concerns so that we can continue to stay under the Cities Association. The executive committee has agreed to work with the roundtable to address our concern, to address all the concerns. They have placed a short time duration on this activity to get it completed in a short time. We have created a document as a starting point to work out all the items. It has been shared with all of you, and it does include updates to address some of the recent comments we have received. And I heard that some of the people asked, if you look at the document, why are there blue highlights? The blue highlights are the changes from version 1 to version 2. We had been under the impression maybe everybody had seen the version 1. I just want to say that this document is a draft and a starting point. It is very important that we need to clearly address all of the Cities Association's topics. The goal is to clearly document all the roles and responsibilities and what needs to take place. The document also includes an appendix that details the efforts that we went through to find other organizations to live under. And before we try and answer any questions that you might have, Mary Lynn is here to share a little bit about what the value that the roundtable presents to our residents.
Thank you, Glenn, and thank you all for listening to us tonight. On June 28, 2017, congressional members Anna Eshoo, Jimmy Panetta, and Ro Khanna wrote to the interim executive director of Cities Association, Joanne Benjamin. The beginning paragraph reads, "We write to request your assistance with the establishment of a long-term forum for aircraft noise concerns in the Bay Area. There is a critical need in Santa Clara County and Santa Cruz County for a permanent venue to address aircraft noise concerns, and we think it is essential that this body include all unrepresented cities in our congressional districts. Because you represent each of the 15 cities in Santa Clara County," the letter goes on, "we respectfully request your assistance developing an intergovernmental partnership between the cities in Santa Clara and Santa Cruz counties, SJC, San Francisco International Airport, that will serve again as a permanent aircraft noise mitigation entity representing all affected communities in the South Bay and Santa Cruz County. Further, the letter continues, we understand the developing solutions to aircraft noise issues is a complicated and sensitive endeavor that requires intensive engagement with constituents living in the affected communities, facing separate but ultimately interrelated issues. Because of this, any proposed changes to our complex airspace should not be the burden of one single city and can only be achieved fairly and effectively with a foundation of regional consensus. The establishment of a permanent South Bay entity is the fundamental prerequisite to ensuring that there is a platform to develop regional consensus and thereby ensure any current and future aircraft noise concerns of our mutual constituents that can be adequately addressed. In conclusion, they write, we hope you will accept our request to adopt a leadership role in helping to meet this important regional need. Important to understand tonight is that in the role as the permanent aircraft noise mitigation entity, our roundtable is recognized by the FAA as a valid and representative community forum. No such other forum exists in our South Bay area. We represent 2 million residents, and we have been designated as the appropriate body to follow up with the FAA on past or future actions or inactions related to the reports of the Select Committee on South Bay Arrivals and the Ad Hoc Advisory Committee on South Flow Arrivals. Since our inception, the SCSC Roundtable has had the benefit of contracting services with the esteemed consulting firm ESA. With ESA's guidance, the Roundtable wrote a time-sensitive letter to the FAA regarding noise certification on supersonic aircraft, a letter recognized nationally as an innovative model response. We have begun collaboration with SFO Roundtable and Oakland Noise Forums in order to leverage more efficiently our individual strengths, our efforts, and our knowledge bases. We have had numerous personal interactions with and presentations from the FAA. Additionally, and importantly, we are the FAA and congressionally designated venue for community outreach and comment on the FAA's hoped for near future rollout of Surfer Big Sur BRICS transition flight routes, which our communities anxiously have been awaiting since 2017. While every other roundtable and community noise forum in the United States has an airport serving as their fiscal agent, neither SFO nor San Jose has agreed to sponsor our roundtable to date. Without the roundtable, affected communities have no other regional, public, structured forum to voice their opinions and concerns regarding aircraft noise and environmental issues. Streamlined communication is effectively lost. Let's face it, that means our residents will begin to knock on our individual city council members and supervisors' doors, to complain to Cities Association and to the Airport Land Use Commission, to write letters to their congressional offices and representatives, and to flood emails to random FAA departments, all of which will not result in the coordinated action required to improve the conditions in our community. Again, I appreciate you hearing us out tonight, and I really appreciate the Cities Association Executive Board offering to form an ad hoc so that we may go forward in discussing how we can nail down roles and responsibilities and work through the concerns that the Cities Association has had in the past. And I will leave the 2 minutes left for Glenn to wrap up if he has anything else to say.
No, I think we just wanted to, I think the agenda item was to give an update of where we were, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that people might have.
Thank you. And definitely the board members, it's a very complex issue. So, and they have been so kind to join us. And so now's an opportunity to ask questions and provide comment and feedback and begin that conversation. So board members.
Okay, so I actually have a question for Chappie, because I'm on the round table, but we don't have San Jose there. And as Marilyn mentioned, this is the only round table in the entire country that doesn't have the airport as a physical agent. And the San Francisco Roundtable is funded by, I think, both the airport and the county. So I don't know, has San Jose ever discussed at all of the possibility of being a physical agent for the roundtable and how that kind of conversation went?
So Mary Lynn asked me to present to our council a recommendation to join the roundtable. And it was voted on at San Jose City Council with certain conditions. One condition was that there would be proportional representation based on population. And another condition was that there would be a clear statement that no flights would be shifted to the east side of the county. And I think there were a couple other conditions as well. I don't remember them specifically, but I know those were the two big ones. And that was not accepted by the roundtable, those conditions. So San Jose didn't proceed to join.
If I may, we were working towards getting educated on what dispersion in our area meant. And I believe that once we discovered that the skies are so full of planes that dispersion over your areas of concern could not have happened. And we would be ceasing to ask that. And one of the conditions of our approval was that we not shift noise, in other words, routes. That standard could have been met. What the problem was that proportionally, I think you were asking for, San Jose was asking for how many members, and we only had 13 at that time. You would have made a majority of that, where other large cities like Sunnyvale and Mountain View have the same number of people as Saratoga and pick a city. You know, it was one city, one vote. And so it would have definitely given all power to the city of San Jose. And we tried to negotiate to come down to 2 people. And I tried to work on finding ways that we could maybe even push it to 3, but the door closed before we could get there. So.
And any other questions of our Council Member Bernald and Vice Mayor Hendricks? Okay, seeing none, thank you both. And so I'm going to close.
If I can just say, you know, here, as I said here, we're looking forward to trying to find a solution that works for everybody, that, you know, deals with and addresses everyone's concerns and gets that in a clearly documented form so everybody has a clear understanding of what a path forward might look like for the board, you guys, the Cities Association, to end up making an ultimate decision.
Thank you. Okay, and so seeing no other, actually, hold on, I have one more hand. Is it for our guests, Ms. Councilmember Watanabe? Okay.
Yes, thank you. Here, I figure I better throw in my 2 cents. I feel like
Is it 2 cents or is it a question?
No, throwing in my 2 cents here in support of my colleagues and
Oh,
also.
wait, hold on real quick. So if it's not a question, I'm going to close public hearing real quick and see if there's any other in the public comments so that we have other attendees. And if anyone else would like to speak before we close public hearing, the public portion of the hearing.
Well, I have one question if could ask for clarity, Mariko.
Yes.
Since the public hearing is still open. This was informational. Our presentation was informational tonight, but there is an ask later on in there. And I don't know if we will be able, as an ad hoc representing the roundtable, to speak to that, or if you want us to speak to that at this point.
For the second portion, the auditor's report?
No, the section that has the ask in the agenda about whether determination should be made for looking for reimbursement.
Yes, that would be the audit. And so we're going to separate those two. And so when we get to that agenda, we'll definitely bring back those that want to speak to it. So you'll have that opportunity then.
Thank you for the clarity.
Of course. So, okay, so I'm going to close that. And I'm sorry, Councilmember Watanabe, I'm going back to you now. And
Okay.
so any comments now?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, as Glenn had said, yes, I was part of the ad hoc committee as well, and just want to express my support for the work that's been done. If you look at the appendix to the report that was submitted and the outreach that was done, you'll see that even the airport, the San Jose Mineta airport director, was actually very complimentary of the round table and the work that was achieved in such a short period of time. So aside from the letter that was submitted to the FAA regarding supersonic airplanes, I mean, the roundtable has achieved quite a bit of success in a short period of time. And I guess it's with any organization, there's always opportunity for change and improvement. And I know that is what we're looking for, and appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Any other comments? This is so confusing. I see a hand up, but I can't figure out who's, Vice Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to close by saying that I'm on the ad hoc to work with the roundtable, me and Larry Klein, and we're giving ourselves a 3-month time frame to be able to work through the issues. Hopefully our goal and desire is to have them resolved to the satisfaction of the association as well as the roundtable, and to be able to move forward. So that's our vision and goal, and hopefully the expectation.
Thank you. And just again, for context, so it was, we said we'd bring this back in January to the full board. So we're bringing this back. There was a recommendation in the staff report, as Vice Mayor Jones said, that to create an ad hoc committee. And so if people are in agreement, then I'm seeking a motion to continue with that recommendation.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion from Vice Mayor Jones. A second?
Second.
Okay, second from
Klein.
Mayor Klein. Okay, and I see a hand up. Yes, Mayor. I'm going to say it wrong. DuBois.
Du Bois.
Du Bois. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So I just want a clarification. So tonight we were saying we kind of had to check in with this ad hoc. We're going to continue the ad hoc. And how much time is left? I guess how much longer will it continue?
3 months.
3 more months.
Correct.
Sounds good. I'll support the motion.
Okay. Any other comments or questions to the motion? Okay, Auden?
Okay. Chow, Cupertino,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Watanabe,
Yes.
Du Bois,
Yes.
Constantine,
No.
Turner,
Yes.
Rennie?
Oh, I believe it's me for Los Gatos.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Sayok?
No.
Fliger?
Yes.
Langley?
No.
Bybee?
No.
Zhao Saratoga?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Kame? Or I'm sorry, Abakoga?
Aye.
And Montano?
Aye.
So motion passes with 9 votes.
Thank you, Audit. And then on 7B, it's related, but somewhat not related. So we decided to keep it separate. Again, for context for our newest members, we, as we do every year, we did a fiscal audit of the organization. It came back and we did approve it in December or November. One of the items and findings that was contained in there was cost recovery from the roundtable. And so as fiscal agents, as fiduciary agents of Cities Association, bringing this to our board, how to decide on how to cure the finding that was in the audit. And so there is a staff report. Actually, Andy, it's not, the staff report's not in there, the audit report's in there. And so would you like to talk to this?
I'm trying to pull up the report too, so I can show it to everyone. Basically, the audit identified that the Cities Association has been augmenting the roundtable's budget, but more importantly, 7 of our members of the Cities Association who are not members of the roundtable are subsidizing the roundtable, and so they said that we should pursue cost recovery and also discuss if we continue to move forward fiscal that we should have some sort of fiscal arrangement for this fiscal sponsorship. If you just hold on 1 minute so I can pull up the report so I can get that in front of you. My apologies.
So who is they?
The San Jose audit department, the auditors of San Jose are the did the audit, and they are the ones that identified this.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had it pulled up on my screen
And then Auden, after all the board members have asked their questions, I'll open it back up to public comment. So,
okay.
Thanks. And then meanwhile, while Andy's pulling that up, are there any other questions from board members that we might be able to answer? Hold on, I see Mayor DeBose. Did I get it?
I think boys.
Okay.
Boys.
But close. I'm just curious, will the move to a JPA make kind of some of this accounting easier, and that, maybe you could allocate JPA costs according to the number of services cities are using? So cities in the roundtable might get a higher allocation from the JPA.
Actually, I will defer that question to either Shantine or.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor President Sayok. Yes, it could. So as we move towards the JPA and we develop our constitution, which is something that all of the members of the Cities Association will be reviewing and approving, it is something we could theoretically consider. I don't know if it would make it smoother per se. I don't know if that's necessarily the term, but we could build in some kind of obligation schedule for the relative payments and distribute it accordingly. So there is that option. I think the continuing concern for that is whether or not as we move to a JPA and we act as a legal agent for the roundtable, the roundtable itself is not in itself a body. It's neither a subcommittee of this particular entity, nor is it a JPA itself, nor is it a governmental entity as defined by the IRS. So there's a little bit of question there of how we can organize that, but it is something that I would certainly be looking into sincerely if the decision is made ultimately to remain as the fiscal agent going forward.
Marika, are you okay with me going?
Yes. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So basically right now we had agreed to be the fiscal agent for the roundtable. And I've been involved since the inception when that letter was sent to Joanne Benjamin, because by the time the letter was received, I was the one working for the association. And so I've kind of been a part of this all along. And we anticipated, and the board felt that they were willing to assist and help stand up the roundtable. I don't think that we anticipated how much time it would take on my behalf. And also we didn't set out to, we felt like most of the cities would end up joining, and so that it wouldn't be a problem. But we have administrative fees, things like insurance and bookkeeping and software. And so all of those costs are being paid 100% by the cities association, and we're not charging any of those costs, nor do I have approval to charge those costs to the roundtable. And so here I can just show you that the budget for the first year of the roundtable was $250,000. That was the revenue side of it. And then they approved a 6-month extension, which was $125,000. And that put them onto a fiscal calendar year. And then COVID happened, and of the 13 members of the roundtable, the roundtable lost 4 members. They lost the jurisdictions that belonged from Santa Cruz County, and they lost Monte Sereno. So they approved a budget of $182,000, almost $183,000. The current projected reserve or contingency for them is it's about $48,000. And the reason, we're trying to keep a 20% reserve. Also, there was a little bit extra money in the reserve in case they needed technical support. To date for this fiscal year, they have spent for facilitator technical consultant $93,280, and legal they have spent just under $5,000 for a total of $98,000 of their budgeted $182,000. And so it is not unusual for nonprofits to charge for fiscal sponsorship fees. And so what I did was sponsorship fees vary 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. I believe that the roundtable talked to Silicon Valley Joint Venture, and their sponsorship fee is 15%. And so what I did was I took their revenue, which their revenue this year is just under $190,000, of which we invoice and bill. We follow up when people don't pay. And so I took $190,000, and I'm here showing you 5% would be a $9,500 fee, 10% would be a $19,000 fee, 15% $28,500, and 20% $38,000. The auditors are saying our fiscal impact is $35,000 to $40,000, and that's basically they used my salary to because of that was the amount of time that I've been spending on the roundtable. They also included time from the bookkeeper, and we hadn't even come up with the costs associated with insurance and things like that. Mariko, did you want to?
Yeah. So let's stop there and then see if there's any questions of board members. And then again, I'm going to go to the public comment. And so I think the issue that as chair, I want clarity on is, one, how do we cure this, given it's a fiscal audit? And then second, how do we want to proceed for the upcoming 2021? And so, yes, Mayor Zhao?
Yes, I have a question. So you just mentioned about the revenue, 190K. And is that revenue mainly from the membership?
They are self-funded by the members, who belong to the roundtable. And so what the audit identified is that the cities association is augmenting their budget, and also the non-members of the roundtable are subsidizing the roundtable. So they're saying that we should recover our costs, or in the future charge the roundtable for acting as their fiscal sponsor.
So, I mean, the recommendation to recover the cost is, by, I mean, the revenue is fixed, right? What's the recommendation, how to recover the cost?
Well, they have a, so we could start charging them, we could charge them, and you could charge them in the past. They do have a rather large contingency. They can charge their members more money, or you can choose to charge them moving forward. You can choose to charge them a percentage. I think that Mayor Sayak, she works in the nonprofit world, and oftentimes people just charge a lump sum as well, like $5,000 a month. So those are what we're asking you to consider, is how you would like to recover the costs in moving backward or just moving forward.
Would they be able to get more cities to join the roundtable, so that, I mean, is a proposition that they could...
that is not, they've actually lost members. So, but that is not a question that I could speak to.
And when I see the members of the public that are having their hand raised, we could certainly ask them that question. So we could go back to you, Mayor Zhao, to ask that. Okay. Mayor Fleigar?
Thank you, President. So, Andy, I just want to understand, if we decide to charge them going forward, either a percentage or a flat amount, like what the president mentioned, what would that be based on? Is it?
It would be based on that. Those are what your choices are. I mean, that's a policy decision for what, what the auditor is basing it on is my salary and the amount of time that I'm having to put into it.
Right.
I serve as a project manager. I review the invoices. I'm the main contact with ESA. There's a contract. I sign all the papers, all the legal documents. We have insurance. We have to do an insurance audit. We have monthly, I have to invoice everyone. So some is time, and then some are hard cost.
So let's say fast forward, and you're no longer providing that service, and they were to hire their own project manager, who I assume they would pay directly. Is the proposal that we would still figure out what services are directly being provided through the Cities Association and try to come up with a formula to recover some of those monies?
So I think there are a couple of decisions you need to make. You need to decide if you want to recover the past monies or you just want to move forward.
And if I may, Andy, I think there's certain, I think, as she said, there's a policy decision. How do we address the 2020? Do we cure it or not cure it? Second policy decision is, how do we want to move forward? And then third is, what's the rationale to move forward, as you say, like, how do we determine those costs? And is that something that we have the ad hoc committee that's working on this determine? But I think there's certain, as a board, as the financial agent, we have to make a decision on record. How do we cure the past? And if we, and then how do we want to move forward in the future?
And to make that decision, I think the past is a little bit more clear, because that set amount, we're recovering what Andy and all the other expenses that are known. For me to support moving forward, I would just need more information or a better understanding of how that would be calculated. At a high level policy, yes, going forward, let's recover any amounts that the Cities Association ends up covering. But what that actually looks like, I would appreciate getting more information.
Yeah. And Andy, I mean, I don't know how we would do that. And maybe that's something that we would ask the ad hoc to also incorporate, other than just tallying your time and having two separate timesheets. So, but if you have no further question, Mayor Flagler, I'll turn to the others as well. Shantine?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Suck. I don't want to add another wrinkle, but as we have the motion approved for the ad hoc committee to move forward for the next 3 months, there is that period of time where we can expect and anticipate that we will act as fiscal agent, sort of regardless of the outcome of the ad hoc committee's decision or their recommendations to the board. And so we do have that period of time of 3 months that we can anticipate continuing to provide the services that Andy just described, as well as the past cost recovery and what that amounts to. So I wanted to just add that because although we may be looking and projecting very far ahead, if ultimately the decision is to no longer remain the fiscal agent, then we may only be looking at a 3-month period that we need to calculate. And so I wanted to just add that because if there's consideration going forward for the ad hoc committee to take that under advisement, we'll want to loop in potential cost recovery for the next 3 months sort of off the bat.
Okay, thank you. And then Town Manager Pravetti and then Councilmember Watanabe.
Thank you, President, and good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say from a city manager perspective, this discussion is really important and you're asking all the right questions. By how you need to have some accounting of the costs associated with being a fiscal agent. And I think Andy was laying out for you a couple of different options of how to do that. While we could certainly drill down, it is actually very common practice to recognize and balance the administrative work of finding every single penny that was spent versus acknowledging that a flat percentage or flat fee is actually the best use of your limited resources. So thank you for your consideration and discussion of this item.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Watanabe.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Andy, I have a couple of questions, I guess, depending on your answers. Now, I know you mentioned about the contract, like with ESA. Was there a contract with Cities Association as the fiscal agent in which it was to be determined, or it was determined that costs would be shared and given to us to the round table with the expectation, that they would be paid?
That the round table would pay
the costs that were expended by Cities Association. Was that upfront? Was the round table aware of that upfront, basically?
No, but it was assumed that the roundtable would pay their expenses. I don't think that the roundtable, I don't think the Cities Association expected to be expending so much time with it. So I think that is a difference. We do have an MOU, and you do have bylaws, and all of the contracts with all of your members are signed with the Cities Association and not with the roundtable.
Yeah. Right. I'm hoping that this is something that we can, continue to address, through the ad hoc, that's been formed now and come to a resolution, whether it's, if there's any way that maybe the fees could be negotiated, or because, the monies that the roundtable took on were just those monies that from the cities that were participating, and to be expended for the expert, ESA that was hired. So I'm hoping that we can, continue to work on that and address it going forward, in the next couple of months. That's all I have. Thank you.
I see no hands, so I'm going to go to the public. And
actually, I do have one.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Carmen.
No, I'm sorry. It was a
last minute
last minute question. Sorry about that. So I wanted to find out how much time are you spending on this, Andy, for the roundtable? What percentage of time is
I'm
it?
spending considerably less time. Last March through April, I was spending sometimes up to 50% of my time, but 30% of my time since we put this together at least.
Yeah, and I will mention, I wasn't aware of this, and I probably would have appreciated this coming before I voted for to continue the ad hoc. I probably would have appreciated knowing about the financing, about the audit. I probably would have voted differently, but that's neither here or there now. So I think that my personal opinion, it's taking your time, a substantial amount of your time to continue with the services that you're providing for the roundtable. And that's your primary duties are to the city's association. And it just seems that you're spending quite a bit of time on the roundtable and dealing with the audit. I think, there must have been something written down that they were accountable to pay their shared costs. So yeah, I feel that we do need to move forward and find out ways of how they can reimburse the city's association.
Thank you. Mayor Du Bois.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, I just want to say I do think the roundtable is really important, and I agree with some of the previous comments on really getting a better understanding on the basis for the chargebacks. And so, Andy, when you were suggesting a percentage, it wasn't clear to me. Was that a percentage of your total salary or a percentage of the 30% of the time that you're spending?
No, when we're looking at a percentage, we usually when fiscal sponsorships when an organization charges for fiscal sponsorship, they charge a percentage of their revenues. So anywhere from 5 to 20. And one of the conversations, Silicon Valley Joint Venture, they also charge 15% for fiscal sponsorship.
You're suggesting that the roundtable would be charged a percentage of the city's association's revenue?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I would kind of much more strongly prefer or support some kind of basically cost accounting and chargeback. I mean, these are the same cities that are in the cities association that are in the roundtable. I understand there's a subset, but it seems like there should be some accounting mechanism. And like I was asking about the JPA, it's like, it seems like there's a couple issues here. Like what's the governance and form of this roundtable, and should we even consider that it become part of the city's association? But then if the JPA were charging each of the member cities fees, maybe there could be a different member fee based on whether they're part of the roundtable or not. But I think there should be some connection to kind of the expenses and the amount of time that the roundtable's taken to what we're charging them. And I would support, having the ad hoc committee kind of look into a mechanism for accounting for that, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Chow.
So I'm wondering, my understanding is the ESA, the consultant handles all the meeting management and then the website. So, but Andy is spending 50%, 30 to 50% of her time on roundtable. I wonder whether the audit report has a breakdown of what are all the numbers and
The audit report, the audit report's in the packet, and so I don't believe it has all the financials that went into it. It was just what we provided in the packet is the summary and the findings attached to it. Vice Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to attempt to make a motion.
Oh, before you do, though, I have to open the public comment. So,
okay.
So let's, we have asked.
After that's over.
Yeah, I'll come back to you. So let's take public comment. And I believe I see Vice Mayor Hendricks.
Hello, thanks for letting me go ahead and talk, because this is clearly related to our last topic of what went on. First thing I want to go ahead and say is the audit we're talking about here was an audit of the Cities Association, and I believe this is just one of the items that came out of the audit that's related to the roundtable. I also want to address the comment about Andy's time. We've heard about this a lot, and part of what we want to work out in the ad hoc and stuff is being able to try and get Andy's time down to the bare minimum. I don't know that it goes to zero, because the Cities Association is still the one that's acting as the fiscal agent and legal entity, and they sign contracts and stuff. But the intent is to try and get it down as low as possible. To me, this topic is actually very simple, but it breaks out into two parts. From a go forward perspective, and let's say, January 1st, 2021 forward, I don't think there's an issue with us working out and paying and figuring out what is the right amount for the roundtable to pay to the Cities Association for the time and services that you provide. If we'd been able to find another viable entity, we would have ended up paying that fee for their services. So it's the same thing to the Cities Association. So I don't think there's any controversy on being able to go ahead and go forward. And I would suggest that's just one of the items that the ad hoc needs to work out, as whether it's a fixed fee year amounts or whatever, to get into the details. But I don't think there's a conceptual problem with doing that. The other piece then is taking a look at, is there a go back into 2020? And to me, that's actually a very simple answer that we would ask the fiscal agent. If the fiscal agent believes there's paperwork and documentation in play that says we could go back and pay that stuff, that's the fiscal agent's decision, because we as the members of the roundtable, that's one of the functions the fiscal agent does. I would just remind people, Andy talked about the reserves or not allocated money. I think that, for us to go ahead and make changes, get all this stuff documented, some amount of Andy's time, there's going to be probably additional costs in 2021 as we move forward. So I wouldn't necessarily just look at that as that's a pot of gold that can just go ahead and is available for, to pay backwards. So again, my summary is, I think it's really simple. Go forward. Let's just figure out what is the right amount to go ahead and pay for the services that the roundtable's receiving from the Cities Association. That seems clear and simple and straightforward to me. And we would, say here, let's just say that's going to be at least from 1/1/21 forward. And then it's a separate discussion, of what the fiscal agent needs to decide as they represent the roundtable addressing the question that's being asked by the Cities Association. And I hope that makes a little bit of sense. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any questions of Vice Mayor Hendricks? I assume Chappie, Vice Mayor Jones, your hand is for the motion, so I'll wait on that. Okay, thank you. And,
Great,
and
thank you.
anyone else from the public that would like to speak to this? Yes, Councilmember Bernald.
Thank you. I want to reiterate what Glenn Hendricks just said. We really do want to move forward. We do recognize the fact that other agencies do pay their way. For us, there never had been a request. There never was a contract that was signed between the Roundtable and Cities Association. And had we had that brought to us in June when we reviewed the budget, it would have been a timely conversation for us to have. We are paying for the attorney that Andy brought on board, so there was never any attempt for us to slight Cities Association, but that conversation never occurred. And I would like to point out also that the audit that you're seeing tonight is not just about Cities Association's relationship with the Roundtable. I believe, and this is a question for Shantine or Andy, that it actually came about as a result of the Cities Association trying to move towards forming their JPA. Is that correct? And that there are other items of interest in that audit?
No, we have it. We have an audit every 2 years.
But
It's just our typical audit. It wasn't out to identify a problem or anything else.
But it was not just about the city's association's relationship with the roundtable. It was also about cities association
Correct.
and planning collab and everything else. So it's not just something that it was pointed out because of our relationship with the roundtable. It didn't come about for that reason. Thank you for clarifying that, Andy. That's all. We accept that we really do look forward to working out what is fair and even for both entities, because we do believe that whether you are a member of the roundtable, we are here to serve the entire community. So thank you.
Thank you, council member. And yes, I do want to clarify the audit. We do an annual every 2-year audit. And so this is one of the findings that was found. And there were other findings that we as a cities association also need to cure, which is why we're going towards our organizational status changes. Vice Mayor Jones, I look to you now for a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to request reimbursement of Cities Association costs beginning January 1st, 2021, incurred as the Santa Cruz Roundtable's fiscal sponsor, and for the ad hoc committee to develop a payment schedule or plan between the two bodies.
Wonderful. Can I get a second to the motion?
I think I will second that. So you're saying that's starting this year?
January 1.
So I'm saying that effective January 1st, we're gonna seek to recover those costs. And then the ad hoc committee is gonna work with the roundtable to address payment schedules and other payment plans.
Yeah, I will second that.
Want to have clarification?
Yes.
Are we looking, what costs we're recovering the costs from the past, or we're just moving forward? You said the past.
I understand it to be starting January 1.
20.
So I want to definitively say that we're going to recover costs effective January 1st. And then the ad hoc committee is going to work with the roundtable to discuss retroactive costs from the previous year.
And how are we going to determine those costs? Because we've talked about several different avenues here of a fixed.
Andy, I think that the ad hoc committee is going to determine that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. And Chappie, I understood the motion to also be the ad hoc would determine the basis for cost allocation going forward as well.
That would be part of the process, yes.
So we have a motion and a second, and any questions or clarifications to the motion? Okay, Auden, if you wouldn't mind.
Auden, do you have a clear?
Real quick, Campbell, Councilmember Bybee, yes?
I just want to clarify, so we're also talking about costs that have been incurred in this 2020 that are possible. The ad hoc is going to look at a mechanism to recover the costs that were occurred in 2020. Is that?
We're going to explore that. That'll be part of the discussion and negotiations.
Any other questions or clarifications? Okay, Auden, if you would call the vote.
Would Vice Mayor Jones like to restate the motion?
Yes, a motion to request reimbursement of the Cities Association costs beginning January 1st, 2021, incurred as the Santa Clara / Santa Cruz Roundtable's fiscal sponsor, and for the ad hoc committee to develop a payment schedule or plan between the two bodies.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Langley?
Yes.
Bybee?
Aye.
Klein?
Yes.
Watanabe?
Yes.
Du Bois? Du Bois?
Sorry, my space bar wasn't working. Yes.
Constantine?
Aye.
Turner?
Yes.
Sayoc, Sayoc,
Yes.
Fliger,
Yes.
Chow Cupertino,
Yes.
Joao Saratoga,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Abakoga,
Aye.
and Montano.
Aye.
Motion passes with 14 votes.
Thank you. And thank you for both Vice Mayor Jones and Mayor Klein and the Roundtable Ad Hoc Committee for agreeing to continue the conversation. And we do hope that we will reach some resolution. And I'm optimistic with all the conversations that will be occurring that we'll see a positive resolution in 3 months. So that will clearly clarify all these. Thank you all. And before I forget, I forgot to introduce Laurel Prevetti, Los Gatos Town Manager, who is now our ex officio board member to represent Santa Clara City Managers. And Town Manager Prevetti, we welcome and we'd love to hear your report.
Thank you very much. The city managers met yesterday to kick off the new year. And we had a really good conversation. Of course, we're focusing on the economic recovery and COVID as are most of your jurisdictions. And we decided that our work plan would very much align with yours. So because Andy and I had a preview of what you might be considering this evening, the city managers wholeheartedly endorsed all of the items on your work plan. And we look forward to supporting you either through the subcommittees or in other ways as you consider those policy options. In addition, we're going to continue to our work on investing in the next generation of local government employees. We call that next generation. So we're going to continue to do our talent development work, which I think hopefully is of interest to all of you because we can't do our good work without good staff. And then we'll be continuing our efforts around equity as Steve mentioned, you know, equity is a huge issue and it is very complex and it does go well beyond just policing and affordable housing. So we'll also be working on that. So we're just getting started, but we look forward to supporting you with your own work plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. Andy, Executive Director update. You're on mute.
We are working on a letter with Supervisor Chavez's office to send to the governor and to the governor and the public health director, Dr. I believe it's Galley, and to invite them, well, it's to make a request and to ask for more data on COVID vaccinations because the county isn't able to receive all of the numbers that are distributed in Santa Clara County. And so we are going to sign a letter and support their public health order to try to get these numbers so that we can ensure that the vaccines are actually being distributed. Also, in this letter, I'll be reaching out to all of you to see if the mayors would like to sign the letter as well. Then this also goes into, I'm sorry, it's kind of the next point. We will be, I need to work with all of your cities and with you on the Saturday call. The Saturday call with Supervisor Chavez and Supervisor Simidian has generally had the mayors attend. And now that a lot of our cities have reorganized, the mayors are still allowed to attend and they are allowed to bring one other council member. And I will be working with the supervisor's office to help look at the list of who is going to be attending. But we have noticed we need to be aware of Brown Act issues. And so we need to make sure that no city has a quorum of their council attending. And I also then need to look at the list of who's attending to make sure that we do not have a quorum of the board. And so just if you look forward to a message from me in the next day so that we can look at that. The county council's office has been concerned about that. So Steve and I will probably be working on that together. And if for those people who are unable to attend because of a quorum issue, you are welcome to join the ambassadors group with the county. They have extra meetings and education to try to help educate people to create trusted messengers. So, and I think that your councils have probably heard about that as well. So that's what I have right now.
Okay, thank you. And for those that notice on the agenda why we called a special meeting, we decided sometimes with COVID, things change on a daily basis. And so we agendized this in case the county and through Steve had any new information that we couldn't necessarily have anticipated with regard to COVID, vaccinations, anything. And so we tend to keep this on our agenda just for a discussion if there's any updates that need to be shared among all cities. So Steve, is there anything that that we should know about? I know there was a change to that 75 and older.
Yes, that's pretty specifically the biggest change. It came down at the last minute. One of our local assembly members put the word out immediately, and suddenly we got flooded with calls saying your data, your information is wrong. I haven't been invited to get my vaccination yet and all that. So just like the testing rolled out slowly at first and then picked up steam, we're confident the vaccines will happen the same way. And the county is scrambling to find lots of different locations to do the vaccines in. We want to make sure we get everybody vaccinated. Actually, the specific goal is to get 85% of the eligible population, which is about 1.5 million people, vaccinated by August 1st. So I think that's probably the latest information. As Andy suggested, some of these items will be discussed on the Saturday call. There's going to be an ambassadors training next Wednesday. If you have any influencers in your city that haven't been added to the ambassadors list, we'd love to get them. We have maybe 350 people so far. We'd love to get up to 1,000 residents that are willing to help us from Gilroy up to Palo Alto. And we can make sure Andy gets the sign-up sheet that you can pass around again, so that you see that. We've also added a lot of the council members to all the press releases the county puts out. Most of them are about COVID, either announcing press conferences or giving the results of the press conference. Other things will get out too, and it may become overwhelming, but we trust that you know how to exercise your delete button if it does get to be too overwhelming.
Thank you, Steve. Councilmember Watanabe, and then I'll open it up to the public.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we received word yesterday, I believe was from our city manager, Deanna Santana, and that it sounds like there are discussions in looking towards mass vaccinations, and which would make a big difference. So I believe maybe the county is talking with Levi Stadium. There's talk about our convention center, and there's one other location. And so that was, I think they were hoping to get back to us by the end of the week and let us know if Santa Clara could play a part in that, but with the county, and that would definitely make a difference as well. So there's a lot of moving parts, it sounds like, but the ultimate goal is to get everybody vaccinated. So that's great.
I think the two issues there are having enough vaccines, of course, and also having the staff to give the vaccination. So they're doing recruiting sort of outside the box, asking dentists and other folks with medical training to help give the vaccinations. And I think pretty soon they'll be trying to press Liz Niss into service.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to the public. And Mayor Gibbons. Auden, if we can bring Mayor Gibbons.
There, I got it. I think I got it. Thank you. Sorry. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to give you an highlights from the ABAG, reminding everyone that Plan 2050 will be approved by the Executive Board next Thursday. You still have time to get comments in. I strongly encourage them sooner rather than later if you have any additional comments. Second point is you should all be aware that the RENA numbers were revised at the end of January, and there were substantive changes. So you all need to make sure that you and your staff are aware of those changes. Overall, they were good news for Santa Clara County. And I wanted to remind everyone about the REAP funding, the Regional Early Action Planning Grants. And there are 4 different tranches of funding for individual cities. And there's also some just given to you. And then there's some competitive grants. So I encourage you to make sure your staff are all paying attention to making sure you get all the money you can get.
Thank you. And I do have a question of regarding that, council member. I'm sorry, Mayor Gibbons, but first Andy, can our housing collaborative go after that money? Oh, they
Yes.
can. Okay.
Yes, and they are.
Okay. Okay,
Our
great.
planning collaborative will be going after the money to help fund the collaborative through till everyone has their housing element complete.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you, Mayor Gibbons. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. And any other, that was our last agenda item. So any last public comments? Seeing none, I'm going to adjourn tonight's meeting and thank everyone for their time tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.